Ladies, gentlemen, and haradrim of all ages, now that we are a few days into the season, a lot of players are entering their intended proper endgame builds, the ones that made them choose their class to begin with, and for many classes a big important part of that process is finding particular specific uniques. Sometimes these are just add a bunch of damage either from the effect itself for the affixes that are on the item, but sometimes these items are completely build enabling, things like Tempest Roar for multiple different Druid builds, or in the case of the current hotshot Necro Bloodwave build this season, it doesn't work before you have Kesami's Legacy, the new unique pants. But once you do and you swap into the Bloodwave build properly, your power absolutely skyrockets. All that to say, uniques are obviously important, and we do one of these types of things every season, but that's because there are often changes for one reason or another. And this is going to be your guide on how to target farm all of these specific uniques in the game for Season 7, including the new ones that have just been added for Season 7. We'll also go over how to do the process relatively efficiently too. First up, for those out of the loop, the best way to target farm uniques in the game at this stage are the lair bosses, the ladder bosses. These are the bosses that you can summon with special materials in their own instances across the map, and they only exist in torment difficulty. The higher difficulty that you fight the boss on as well, the more drops and better drops it will have, including increased drop rates for mythic unique items too. That said, what are the best ways to go about getting the materials required to summon these bosses to begin with? Well, for everything aside from Duriel and Andariel, you will get the materials from just engaging with the endgame activities as a whole, all across the game, including Headhunt and Whispers of the Dead within them, which you'll be finding yourself doing loads of to begin with anyways. Aside from that, the main specific way of farming boss materials is the Tribute of Titans for the Cuirassed Undercity activity from the Vessel of Hated expansion. This makes the chest at the end of the activity drop a pile of boss summon materials, and an important note is that this will drop the same pile for every group member, so if you do this in a full party of 4, you do get quite a sizable pile of materials, and you can then bring that group to run the bosses themselves, as the most efficient way to use boss summon materials once you have them is in a group, given that it costs the same amount to summon the boss solo as it does to summon one for 4 players, and each player will get their own set of loot. So in a boss rotation, where you rotate who spends the actual materials, and you can often find these in the party finder system in the game, you can essentially get 4 runs of a boss for the cost of 1 set of materials from you. As well, the bosses themselves are the best source of getting the Tribute of Titans 2 drop to begin with, which is what lets you farm more summon materials from the Undercity, and so this creates a really effective gameplay loop for players, especially ones who want to farm these bosses in a proper group together. As for the Duriel and Andariel materials specifically, these can drop from the Undercity Tribute as well. Otherwise, the materials to summon Duriel are dropped by Varshan and Grigoire, and the materials to summon Andariel are dropped by Lord Zir and Beast and Ice. With that covered, let's go over what each of the bosses actually offers as far as their unique drop table for each of the classes, and of course for the uniques that apply to every class too. I will show the whole table on screen when talking about each boss. Here's Varshan as an example, and I will highlight a few standouts, as well as the ones that are new this season, such as the Sustained War Crozier Quarterstaff for the Spiritborn. This one mostly has a lot of valuable rings coming from this boss that a lot of classes are after, as well as a few other uniques of note too. Then after that we have Grigoire, who is the summoned boss in exchange for Living Steel. This boss doesn't have any of the new uniques that came in this season, but it still has the same old solid roster that he drops if you are looking for any of these in particular. Following that is the Beast in Ice. This one is summoned with Distilled Fear, and this has 3 of the uniques that were added to the game this season within its drop pool, specifically the Mantle of Mountain's Fury, chest piece for Barbarians that enables the Hammer of the Ancients and Earthquakes combo build, the Indira's Memory, pants for the Necromancer, which is one of the Bloodwave ones, but not the ones that's really overpowered, as well as the Strike of Stormhorn, Catalyst for Sorcerers for the Super Ball Lightning builds. After that is Lord Zir, summoned using the Blood, and he got the rest of the new uniques for this season, which are Kesami's Legacy, the actually overpowered pants for Necromancer that make the Bloodwave builds just go absolutely nasty, the Oaken's Catalyst Ball Lightning Catalyst for Sorcerers, Malefic Crescent, the new Druid Amulet unique that messes with Lupine Ferocity, and Assassin's Stride, the new unique boots for the Rogue as well. Then finally we have Duriel and Andariel as well, who do have a shared loot table. These don't have any of the new uniques that were added in this season, however, they do tend to have a lot of the more impactful or powerful uniques for each of the classes, or at least that was the intention of the developers when they decided which uniques would be dropping from these. As well, these 2 bosses specifically have an increased chance of dropping mythic unique items, even compared to the other lair bosses too, which do all have heightened chances of dropping mythic uniques in general, but these ones specifically have a boosted rate. All of that covered then, there are 2 other real sources of target farming for different uniques too. The first is Infernal Hordes, as there are a number of uniques that are designed to drop way more frequently from that activity specifically. That includes the Third Blade for the Barbarian, the Basilisk for the Druid, Druid, the Mortarcrux for the Necromancer, the Umbercrux for the Rogue, Vox Omnium for the Sorcerer, and then the Crown of Lucian, Endurant Faith, the Shard of Rathiel, Rakenos Wake, and Locran's Talisman as well for all classes. Aside from that, if you are looking for a unique that is tied to a specific slot, there are actually ways to somewhat target farm them through other activities you may just be doing anyways in the background. For example, maybe you are a Necromancer who is after those unique legs, the really powerful ones, but you aren't planning on doing Lord Zir right now. Maybe you don't have the materials, maybe you're not strong enough to do it on the tier that you're on and you want to save your materials, but let's say you're doing Headhunt. Well, if you finish a Whispers of the Dead within this Headhunt and are offered a cache that gives you specifically pants, items for the pants slot, you should take that, because these caches can drop uniques, and when they do, they are supposed to match the item type of the cache itself. So if you take a pants cache and it drops a unique, it should give you unique pants, and that gives you a decently high chance of getting the specific unique pants that you're after. The same concept goes for Helltide, where you would want to focus on the pants specific reward chest from Helltide itself to only have pants drop when you do open these chests, and then the same logic also applies to the Purveyor of Curiosities, which is the vendor that trades you items at RNG in exchange for Murmuring Obols. So all of these can be used to actually sort of target farm specific slots, which does heavily increase your chances of getting the unique that you are after if it happens to roll a unique item to begin with. But generally speaking, if you have the boss materials and are strong enough to kill them, the lair bosses are the most reliable, efficient, consistent route to the majority of the uniques in the game. That is the way that I would definitely recommend going out for your specific targeted uniques, at least to begin with, if you can. That pretty much does it for today then, everyone. Just your semi-regular roundup of everything that you need to know about targeting specific uniques and getting them as quickly and easily as possible too, mainly for the purposes of enabling or boosting whatever build that you want to play in the endgame, as well as the specific location where each of these is significantly more likely to drop than just sort of a spreadshot farming general content like doing nightmare dungeons in comparison. I hope you've all enjoyed this and hopefully it helps you out in your continued journey. Like if you liked the video, subscribe to the notification bell for more, and most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, until next time, stay sweet.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.